The sun draped golden light across the lawn of the Harper home, catching on the fresh white paint Daniel Harper brushed onto his wooden fence. Each stroke was steady, almost meditative, the air rich with the scent of cut grass and pine. In the distance, ribs sizzled on a grill, and a dog barked once before falling silent. His son, Noah, 10 years old, carved loops on his skateboard along the sidewalk, his too big helmet bobbing with every turn. Noah's grin, bright and fearless, warmed Daniel's chest. The boy had saved for that board for months, birthday cash, chore money, even a lemonade stand. Now, it was like an extension of him. "Watch those turns, champ," Daniel called, waving the brush. "You're not a stuntman." Noah laughed, pushing harder, gliding past the chalk-drawn dragon they'd made that morning. The moment was perfect, simple. Daniel leaned on the fence post, soaking it in. No emails, no battles, just the hum of a safe neighborhood. Across the street, Mrs. Carter tended her roses. A few houses down, a dad hoisted his toddler onto his shoulders, both giggling. Daniel nodded at them. He'd seen enough of the world to know these moments were fragile. He never imagined this one would end with blood on the pavement, sirens wailing, and the sound of Noah's bones snapping, echoing like a gunshot in his mind. For now, though, all he heard was laughter. All he saw was his son, free and untouched by the storm brewing. It started with a scream, sharp, high-pitched, wrong. Daniel's brush froze. His head whipped toward the sound. Not a dog, not a scraped knee. That was Noah. The scream came again, raw, terrified, slicing through the suburban calm like a blade. The paint can hit the ground. Daniel was already running, boots pounding, heart hammering, lungs burning. The world blurred, fences, flowers, neighbors, nothing mattered. He rounded the corner and stopped cold. Noah lay twisted on the ground, pinned by 2 men. One pressed a knee into the boy's spine. The other yanked Noah's arms back at a sickening angle. "Get off him!" Daniel roared, voice shaking with fury. The men didn't flinch. A woman stood nearby, arms crossed, lips curled in a smug smile. Platinum blonde hair, blood-red blazer, sunglasses glinting like ice. She didn't speak at first, just watched, as if directing a play. Then she smiled wider. "Your kid's breaking HOA skateboard rules," she said, voice cool as steel. "He was warned. Now he's learning." "You're out of your mind," Daniel growled, stepping forward. The man holding Noah's arms jerked them harder. Crack. Noah's scream was inhuman, a sound no child should make. Daniel lunged, but the stockier man shoved him back, hard. Daniel stumbled, palms scraping pavement, blood welling under his skin. "Touch him again and I swear," he barked. "You'll what?" the woman sneered. "Call the police?" "You're looking at them." The taller man wore a navy shirt. HOA Patrol. Stitched in yellow. His badge was plastic, his authority a lie. But the blood pooling under Noah's cheek was real. Neighbors gathered, phones out, but no one moved. The uniforms confused them. And the woman, Sandra Mitchell, Daniel realized, head of the HOA, wielded fear like a whip. "Step back, sir," the tall man barked. "Final warning." "He's 10, Daniel spat. "You broke his arms." "Both, technically," Sandra said, inspecting her nails. "And we could break yours if you keep interfering." Daniel took a burning breath and stepped back. But inside, something primal woke. This wasn't over. He looked at Noah, barely conscious, his son, his reason for everything. As Sandra smirked and gestured to a black SUV at the curb, Daniel didn't move. Not yet. But a clock started ticking in his mind. He'd go back. He'd open the closet. He'd grab what he swore he'd never need again. They'd crossed the line, and Daniel Harper wasn't begging. He was going to burn it all down. Daniel's breath came in ragged bursts, trembling not from fear but from the effort to restrain himself. Every instinct screamed to tear those men off Noah, but he held back. Sandra's stilettos clicked like nails on a coffin as she sauntered to the SUV, waving a clipboard like a scepter. You should thank us, Mr. Harper, she said sweetly. Skateboarding's banned on sidewalks. Liability, you understand? You fractured his arms over a sidewalk. Daniel snarled, rising, blood dripping from his palm. Actions have consequences, Sandra replied, unfazed. Your boy didn't listen. He'll think twice now. The taller man tightened his grip on Noah's mangled arms. The boy whimpered, barely conscious. Daniel's fists clenched, nails biting skin. You sick bastards, he spat. You're not cops. You're thugs in costumes. We're authorized HOA enforcement, the stocky man said flatly. We detain violators. Detain? Daniel roared. He's 10. You broke his bones like he's nothing. Sandra stepped forward, poised as a queen. Return home, Mr. Harper, before this becomes hostility toward HOA personnel. That has consequences. Her voice was venom wrapped in silk. Daniel's jaw locked. Neighbors watched, phones raised like shields. No one intervened. The uniforms worked their lie. Sandra leaned closer, voice low. I run this neighborhood. I decide what's safe. Your son's a liability. Daniel's stomach churned. He'd faced worse than her in war zones, but none so shameless. Then she snapped the final thread. Want him safe? Follow the rules. Daniel stared, long and hard, then turned and walked away. Not from fear. Not because she'd won. Something colder settled in his eyes. He knew what waited at home, locked in the closet. Sandra had made the worst mistake of her life. Daniel stormed across his lawn, heart pounding, blood roaring. He couldn't look back. If he saw Noah again, broken and discarded, he'd charge in blind and destroy them all. That wouldn't save his son. The front door slammed. Silence swallowed the house. He marched past family photos, Noah's unfinished Lego set, baseball gloves on the couch. Everything felt violated. In the hallway closet, his hand shook, not with doubt but with fury vibrating in his bones. He threw the door open. Coats parted, revealing a steel safe, cold as memory. Daniel wiped his palm on his jeans and punched in the code. 3 wrong tries. Damn it, he muttered, vision blurring. Sandra's voice echoed, follow the rules. He's a liability. He slammed his fist into the wall, pictures rattling. Then he breathed, tried again. Click. The safe opened. There it was, Scar H, his last resort. Daniel stared, the weight of his oaths, never again, crashing against Noah's scream. He pulled the rifle free, heavier than memory, colder than regret. His grip steadied. He checked the mag loaded. Safety off. Sandra wanted rules? She'd learned what happened when a father broke them. Daniel stepped outside, Scar H tight to his chest. The neighborhood felt fake now, the sun a plastic lie. At the street's end, the SUV idled, rear door open. The taller man dragged Noah's limp body, legs scraping pavement like a doll's. Daniel's pulse spiked. Not my son. He stalked forward, silent, boots crunching gravel. Sandra stood by the SUV, phone in hand, voice loud for the neighbors. Per Regulation 5.2b, hostile children can be removed by force if they threaten community safety. This boy has no respect. She laughed. Daniel raised the rifle. Put him down. The command exploded like thunder. Everyone froze. Sandra turned, smile faltering. Daniel, she said, voice strained. You're making a scene. I'm making a promise, he growled. Let him go. The taller man hesitated, then dropped Noah onto the sidewalk. The boy whimpered. The stocky man moved to the SUV. Daniel fired a warning shot skyward. The crack shook windows. Dogs barked. People screamed. Phones dropped. The fake officers scrambled for the vehicle. Daniel advanced, rifle steady. Next shot's not the air. Sandra stepped forward, defiant. You point that thing 1 more inch and I'll. You'll what? Daniel cut in. Call more fake cops? Break more bones? You lost your power when you hurt my son. The men piled into the SUV, fear in their eyes louder than the roaring engine. Daniel held his aim. I warned you, he whispered. The Scar H roared again. The SUV's rear window shattered, glass bursting like a confession. The taller man yelped, ducking. Panic erupted. Sandra screamed. Are you insane? That's a felony. Daniel stepped closer, eyes locked on her crumbling empire. You committed the felony. He snarled. You ordered the assault. You smiled while they crushed his arms. You'll rot in prison. Sandra quavered, venom fading. I'll sleep fine. Daniel snapped, leveling the rifle. Will you? The SUV's tires screeched as it lurched forward. Daniel tracked it. Crack. The rear tire exploded, the vehicle bucking sideways, rim grinding asphalt. The stocky man tumbled out, crawling behind a trash bin, leg limp. The driver screamed, swerving, the SUV smashing a mailbox. Daniel didn't fire again. He ran to Noah, dropping to his knees, brushing glass from the boy's cheek. I'm here, buddy. It's over. But it wasn't. The remaining fake officer bolted, crashing through garbage cans, vanishing behind a hedge. Daniel didn't chase. He was a father, not a hunter. He cradled Noah, tears mixing with grit. Sirens grew louder. Sandra stood frozen, mascara streaking, her power dead. Daniel looked at her once, and she saw her reckoning. Cruisers screeched around the corner, lights strobing. Drop the weapon! Hands up. Daniel placed the rifle down, hands rising. Hold on, bud, he whispered to Noah. Officers moved fast, one securing the Scar H, another covering Daniel, a third kneeling by Noah, radio crackling. Sandra lunged forward. He's armed. He shot up the street. Arrest him. The sergeant, grizzled and calm, glanced between them. Daniel spoke evenly. Those men aren't cops. They dragged my son to a car with no plates. They broke his arms. Lies! Sandra shrieked. They're HOA enforcement. The sergeant saw Daniel's bloodied hands, Noah's broken body, and he bullet-riddled SUV. An officer approached. Sir, witnesses confirm 2 men assaulted a minor. Doorbell cams caught it. They're not law enforcement. Sandra's mask cracked. They're with the committee, she stammered. Committee doesn't deputize kidnappers, the sergeant snapped. Get medics for the boy. Daniel lowered himself beside Noah, trembling as adrenaline drained. They were going to take him, he said, voice raw. The sergeant nodded. We believe you. Night fell. Crime scene tape fluttered. Officers cataloged glass, bullet holes, and witness accounts. Daniel sat by an ambulance, watching paramedics tend Noah, his small face pale under an oxygen mask. Sandra sat on the curb, blazer wrinkled, clipboard gone. An officer approached. We got one guy bleeding bad, hiding by a dumpster. The other's on cams. He won't get far. Sandra stood. Release him. He's a contractor. The sergeant's eyes narrowed. Under what authority did you authorize force on a minor? She faltered. Community protocol. No, Daniel cut in. You decided. You wrote the rules. You let them hurt kids and smiled while they snapped his arms. Sandra's eyes welled, but Daniel's voice was steel. You use fake power to scare families. You unleashed wolves in uniforms. The sergeant ordered her statement taken and HOA records frozen. Daniel returned to Noah as the ambulance doors closed. Sandra's empire was dust. The hospital hallway was sterile, smelling of disinfectant and pain. Daniel sat outside trauma room 3, knuckles raw, forearms stained with Noah's blood. A vending machine hummed. Inside, Noah slept, sedated, arms in casts, IVs snaking down bruised wrists. The door opened. A nurse and officer stepped out. He's stable, the officer said. Clean breaks. With therapy, he'll recover. Daniel nodded. He'll be safe here. the officer added. You did what any father would. Most wouldn't have waited so long. I didn't wait, Daniel said, eyes bloodshot. I planned. The officer nodded and left. Daniel entered the room. Noah looked tiny, bruised like a soldier. Machines beeped. Daniel sat, hand on the blanket. You were brave, kid, he whispered. You didn't break. They did. Noah stirred. Dad? His voice was faint. They hurt. I know, Daniel choked. They'll never touch you again. Noah's fingers grazed his hand. I heard you yell. Daniel chuckled, eyes stinging. Yelling with a rifle gets results. Noah drifted off. Sunlight spilled through the window, warm and quiet. Daniel made a silent vow. No badge, no system, would come between him and his son again. Whatever it took, he'd be ready. This wasn't just a fight over rules. It was a wake-up call. Authority can be faked, fear weaponized, but a parent's love doesn't yield. Daniel didn't want the rifle, the sirens, the cameras. He wanted a Sunday, a fence, a laughing child. When that was stolen, he chose to act, not wait for justice to be too slow, too late. Protection isn't passive, it's fierce, uncompromising. Sandra thought power was clipboards and fear. Daniel showed its conviction, purpose, and the bond between father and son. What do you think? Was Daniel a hero or a vigilante? Should he have waited for the law, or was his response justified? Have you seen power abused by those meant to protect? Share your thoughts in the comments, we read every one. If this story stirred you, hit like to support raw, real narratives. Subscribe for more and share with someone who needs to remember, justice isn't always given. Sometimes it's earned.